Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Tron Ares. This is the third Tron movie, and Disney's kind of third attempt at making this kind of cult thing into more than it is, and sort of not really succeeding. In a lot of ways, there are certain things about this film that could be really cool for the Tron franchise. First off, the best thing is the Nine Inch Nails score. With Tron Ares, I think there are certain things that could be interesting in a new Tron movie. First, that the reason that Ares, played by Jared Leto, and all those guys are red instead of the usual blue is they're part of a different company, the Dillinger Company, rather than Encom, I think, or wherever Flynn worked before. So it's a different computer system, and that's actually kind of interesting, as well as the idea that now the creatures can come into the real world, which is something they talked about at the end of Legacy, and now we're seeing in this film. And those are kind of interesting ways to take the franchise. That is not done in a particularly good way within this. There's no sort of theoretical or moral or anything kind of interesting to debate over about this at all. It's very shot in a very like Disney, straightforward, hired hand kind of director way, which is unfortunate because I think the previous two had a little more inventiveness, which this one doesn't. It's kind of like the most under-directed Tron movie possible, which I've seen enough people show off their home entertainment systems with both Tron movies that I understand like that although I don't particularly like the Tron movies that much, I get why they would want to do that. And this film, although it has some really cool looking parts, really just doesn't have the inventiveness to really make this the real full Tron experience. But, you know, if you're into Nine Inch Nails and cool music with nice movie theater sound systems, then, oh boy, I mean, that's pretty neat. If you just like the Nine Inch Nails score, then seeing this movie will be worth it because the music sounds wonderful. It's just like the other parts you kind of gotta put up with that play over the score that is not so much great at all. It's kind of pretty forgettable Disney big studio fare that you kind of question like what they're even doing, and couldn't you use your resources to make something a lot more interesting? Also, there is a character called Tron. I think people forget about that. I know it's the franchise's name, but there's a character called Tron. He's not in this at all. It's just the franchise is called Tron now. I guess he died or something. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter. All right. So Tron Ares is about just to bring that up. I know a lot of people have, but it's just like it's a little weird. Anyway, Tron Ares is about of two companies, Encom, which is not run by Flynn or his son. They really don't bring up Legacy too much because even though people like Legacy, but they're like, let's forget about Legacy, which feels like off for like most people I talk to, but whatever. Encom is run by two sisters. One is played by Greta Lee. The other was more interested in saving the world stuff, and Greta Lee was interested in making another version of, I think, Encom's Big Game or whatever. Anyway, she did that, but her sister died, and now she's on a mission, as well as the Dillinger Company, who are the bad guys in the first Tron. Now they have their own company. It's run by the original Dillinger's grandson, and he has the cool computer desk. The computer desk is back, you guys. And he is his grandson. His mom is Gillian Anderson. I guess his uncle's Cillian Murphy from the second one, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, he is trying to also make stuff from the computer, and basically he makes evil weapons and stuff because he sucks. And so his big security program is Ares, played by Jared Leto, and he keeps making Ares show up in the real world with tanks and stuff. However, because they need the permanence code, which was made by Flynn, of course, things they make only stay around for around 29 minutes, and then they'll sort of just dissolve, fall apart and shit. So, although we don't know like what these things are made out of, like what the whole deal is with that, they don't get into that. Their whole thing is they need to find the permanence code, because then the permanence code will make their like 3D printer, but things are real now thing work, basically. And so Greta Lee discovers it, and so Dillinger is trying to find Greta Lee to get that, or is going to rip open her brain to get that information from her, as well as the same time Ares, who sees like rain and stuff, and that makes him question the world. And also he really likes Depeche Mode. Why not Nine Inch Nails, since they're doing the score or whatever, but he really likes Depeche Mode. And he deals with Greta Lee's character in the real world, because he also wants to find the permanence code so he can be a person. I guess. I don't know. There's a lot to this plot, and I don't care enough. There are parts when I'm watching Tron Ares I'm really into, and I kind of like the idea of like, oh, you could take Tron in this way. That's actually kind of interesting. Particularly like, what would it be seen from the Dillinger side, which they don't really take advantage of a different perspective. They're just like, yeah, but he's bad. You know he's bad, right? So we don't need to mess with the perspective here. And I'm like, there's that element, and the bringing computer stuff to the real world. I mean, it's like, I guess Pixels did that, but you'll be all serious about it, so I guess that's better. But the big thing is, like, this film is very much about Ares. I mean, he's the second titular character, I guess. Or the titular character is in the movie. Right. He's not very good in this. This is not a good thing for him as an actor. He's like a charisma black hole. Actually, it feels like this film thinks he's like another big Disney live action movie, Johnny Depp, and it sort of like relies on him like those Pirates movies do. Like, whether you find Johnny Depp annoying or not, it definitely, like, he tries, or like the film's structured around his charisma, and whether he's good in that particular Pirates movie or not helps the movie. I think he was good in at least a few of them, but like in this, like, Jared Leto's not really that interesting at all. In fact, he like kind of like is, I mean, he really is a charisma. He's very bad in this movie. I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, this was his supposed passion project. Disney had turned down the Joseph Kosinski sequel to Legacy because they didn't have a release date when they were being successful. Now that they're not, they're like, well, I guess we could bring back Tron, and then they just hire a guy they've hired a bunch of times and who's done a Pirates movie, and you can kind of tell because they very much think like Jared Leto. It feels like this movie's like, oh, Greta Lee and Jared Leto are gonna be big after this, and I do think like Greta Lee, who's someone who's a lot more subtle, particularly like what we saw from her in past lives, actually finds a way to get this to work. And there are a lot of actors in this who aren't usual. Cero Castro, or in particular, who are not known for big movies, really works. And it's kind of interesting. Jared Leto, who I guess has had more experience than anyone other than Jeff Bridges and Gillian Anderson in terms of the actors in this movie, particularly working in a Hollywood production, works like the least with the movie. Like, he just pushes the computer person thing too far. Kind of like Olivia Wilde was sort of doing that in the last one, but at least like there's some like, oh, I'm trying to like, I don't understand stuff, and it's like at least trying to make a joke. This is just like, I am very serious. I like Depeche Mode. And there are certain parts I actually liked. I like seeing the Tron world again. I liked seeing the kind of, they go to, I guess it's a spoiler sort of, but they go into the older original movie Tron, and I actually thought that was actually kind of cool. Like, they made it look like original Tron movie as they go into an old computer, and that I actually enjoyed. I thought that was like one of the few times I didn't know about it before, so it kind of like surprised me. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of neat, and they actually got it to work well and look exactly like that, and like made me actually want to see Jeff Bridges again in one of these. They don't do de-aging on him. Thankfully, maybe in the beginning part, but it wasn't as notable. Like, I think it almost has like too much going on, but not enough reason to have it there. Like, I think Short Circuit was better at understanding like, hey, what would it be like if, these things grew sentience? And it's like, this doesn't really answer just because they saw rain. Like, it wasn't like, oh, they saw, I don't know what it would have been, but like a flower or the sunshine or a baby or a monkey or pizza or something. I don't know. But like the rain thing doesn't really like, you're a computer. I don't think water is super something you should be into, but all right. I mean, that could have been like a joke in it, How come Olaf is better at doing this than fucking Tron? It's the same company. Come on. I mean, I like Evan Peters was actually, I thought Evan Peters probably would have done Ares better. I think Jared Leto was kind of miscast, so let go of the Jared Leto stuff. Sorry. I did enjoy the Nine Inch Nails score. Kind of one of my more favorite Trent Reznor scores recently. I kind of actually like the Mutant Mayhem score a lot, but I think this is close to it. And I like the new Nine Inch Nails songs. And if you're going to have all these ideas, like, please say something with them. And if you're not saying anything with them and just having this big explosive action sequence stuff, like, get a director that's more interesting. Like, the reason I was like, looking at clips and stuff of the Tron Legacy stuff. I was like, I remember this part looked cool. And like, even though the story stunk, like he knew how to direct. And this director who I think I saw Kon-Tiki and reviewed it, which was his big like foreign language film that pushed him out into the Disney hiring him and stuff. I haven't really seen any of his Disney stuff before this, but like seeing like his more interesting director thing that got, was a bigger foreign film to this is really just depressing. Like it just doesn't really have much soul to it. It doesn't feel like anyone really likes Tron. They're just playing by the, corporate Bible of what a Tron brand should be. And that's kind of not really what these things are. If you want a cult thing to keep existing, you don't just like make a franchise thing to just keep it going, I think Disney should be a little better than like, Troma or something. Like you're supposed to actually give a shit about Tron. Like there's certain shots I like, there's certain parts I like. It had Gary Vee, so I already kind of hate this movie for that part. But there's a lot they could have added to it and made it more interesting. But it almost feels like this movie just sort of refuses to do that. What, like how come wouldn't it be more interesting if they were printed out and didn't look like they did in the computer world? They look different than they did in the computer world because how we perceive the computer world will be different. But they're like, no, but Jared Leto, I can't have Jared Leto not look like Jared Leto. So, or Jodie Turner-Smith, or some of the action sequences were cool. It's cool seeing the light bikes sort of in the real world, but they didn't shoot it very well. So it's like, why am I watching a ugly ass wide shot because you got all the coverage? Like, there should have been like close-ups of the bike and like cutting around and stuff like that. It just like it really felt like they're like, we need to match a release date with a brand that we have a theme park thing to. Even though I know from what I've read, it was really just a weird Jared Leto passion project, but it doesn't even play as like an interesting passion project. It plays as like just a bland blockbuster that the studio's like, well, we got to put IP somewhere. And I kind of, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Tron person. I do sort of just like looking at the visuals and the music. And in that part, it sort of works, but I'd say it ultimately fails because what works about this is the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack. That's the best thing about that. It's probably one of my favorite scores of the year. It's really wonderful to listen to. It really pumps you up. It's like the best. It reminds me of the With Teeth Nine Inch Nails album, which I realized listening to again, I like a lot more than I realized I did. But like this just doesn't pop in a way. And it feels like such a wasted opportunity. And I'm not really a fan of Tron. Like they completely wasted the idea of using Tron because they did it in the most bland way possible with a lot of interesting ideas that they really don't do enough with. They're just there to have cool Tron shit happen. But like I wish there was a director who's more honest about their intentions. It's one thing of a director is like, let's just have a bunch of cool stuff happen, and you can tell the film is like, yeah, you didn't really care about this. That's fine. But like this film honestly wasn't honest with itself. Other than that, it's like, here's your Disney branded Tron movie, here you go. And I don't know. I kind of feel like they could have done better. These weird Disney sci-fi things, this or Black Hole or Tron or Black Hole, like technical wise, they were interesting to look at. I was a kid who wanted to see Tron because I heard all the sci-fi people at the comic book store talk about it. But the reason they talked about it was because of the special effects. It was because it was different and weird. And like, it didn't work necessarily. Nobody seemed to like it, but they're like, hey, the special effects were cool. I cannot, and I saw that happen with Tron Legacy again. A lot of people shit on it. Some people really like it, but the effects were cool enough. People would show off their home stereo systems and see like, oh, the music's cool, the visuals are cool. And in this, what we got is a cool album because nothing in this film is that interesting to show off on your new entertainment system or your new TV or anything like that. No one at the comic book store is going to talk about this other than the week it came out or if it shows up on streaming or something. Ultimately, I think artistically, it was such a massive failure because you missed out on what made Tron interesting, is that it was different and, this weirder, dumb computer thing or whatever. And you couldn't even do that because you had to shoot it in a way that made it the least kind of interesting way you could make a Tron movie. There's so much potential with this, and the potential has made me kind of coming back to see it. But if you're going to even squander that, you kind of have to look at like why you even bothered to deal with Tron in the first place. And I think if it's just to like get Jared Leto to shut up and to have people keep going to your roller coaster, that's sort of all this feels like to me, because there's nothing really rewarding to the viewer at all. It's just another kind of blockbuster. And if Disney just wants to produce another blockbusters. I think this just plays like slop, like The Electric State, just made by a major studio and thrown into theaters, not actually artistically doing anything interesting with a cool concept and cool visuals, and a franchise that people only cared about because it had cool effects. It's ultimately kind of a huge artistic failure, but I do like listening to that music. So if you have seen Tron Ares and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like.